Point is, right, so my mom would read Spirit of Prophecy, and but our church, our local church, wouldn't really talk about the health message in terms of plant-based eating, right? So it was like you were hearing two things at the same time. So we had like a local health food store that was sponsored by the church, right? That you could get health food products, right? Also, Adventists ate meat, I mean, I ate meat because it was this kind of like, there were two messages coming out, right? Because of course we believe in the biblical laws of health, right? Which and the biblical laws to meat eating, which we still believe in. But also we got more information, right, that ended up being true. So for me at least, I grew up eating meat, right? Not all the time though. So I was used to eating veggie food and plant-based food. But every once in a while, my dad would take us out. We would go and go to KFC, get some chicken. So it was not like a problem, right? It was only as I started to grow more and read more that I realized what was actually happening when I, at least I would eat the food that wasn't plant-based. And I'll actually tell you what really made the switch for me, made the big switch for me, right? So there was a time, right, where, and this kind of goes into my testimony, like I was depressed, right? I was like chronically depressed, and it was hard for me to function just in real life, right? And I emailed a church that I would watch on YouTube, right? An Adventist church I would watch. And I told them like I was going through this depression, right? I felt like I was lost. I felt like I was going to hell, and there was nothing that could save me, right? So I got an email back from them, and they said, "Hey, did you know that depression can be cured based on what you eat?" And I was like, "I didn't know this." They said, "Yeah, your gut bacteria actually controls your brain function. And if your gut bacteria is messed up based off of what you eat, you know, with flesh foods that basically rot in your stomach and just make you sick, right? You can overcome this depression." And it wasn't just that, but it was definitely a lot of prayer, a lot of soul searching, like really pouring my heart out to God that got me out of that place. But it was also the change in the food that I was eating. And so I started eating more plant-based. I even started cooking. I had a crock pot. I used to put stuff in the crock pot and cook. And I was really happy. I was really happy. Now, so through that as well, it helped me to realize how important the health message is, right? And of course, over time I kind of fell out of it sometimes, fell back into eating meat. But as time progressed and I kept practicing, right, I got way better, and it's easier for me to just stick to the plant-based lifestyle that I'm trying to practice now. So going to your second question about, is it necessary for salvation? I have a question for you. Is smoking cigarettes a sin?
Yes, because it's damage to
Why?
the temple. Because your body is
Praise
a temple. It's self harm. Smoking
praise
cigarette. There's
God.
no health benefit really to smoking a cigarette. It's self harm.
Praise God. That answers the question.
Well, I could argue with you on is there health benefits to eating meat? I mean,
No, well, here's the thing, right? Doctors used to believe, no, but honestly, doctors back in the day, in the 1900s, your favorite athlete, if you were living back then, was probably smoking a cigarette for health benefits. Because that's what the doctors used to prescribe cigarettes to buy to the people on the Tour de France because
again,
they thought
William.
it helped with lung health.
Again, William. I'm not going to argue with SOP. I'm not
Hmm.
going to argue with health message. But one thing
Hmm.
I can say about meat consumption generally, the Messiah himself ate meat. The
Yes,
apostles themselves ate meat. So meat within
absolutely.
itself, if meat is going to now be or is going to be considered a sin, then you would have to be saying that the patriarchs were sinning, but and God forbid you'd be saying that Christ as well. So I think the distinction would have to be, you'd have to maybe say the meat is the different, or you'd have to say,
That's the distinction though. The meat
okay,
is not healthy. The meat that we get nowadays is not healthy. Like if you want to go deep with it, like most of the foods is not healthy. But the thing with meat though is that you put unhealthy food, like whatever, like let's say you have unhealthy food in a package of, what you call it again, in a package of flesh, right?
mm, mm,
That's like 10x's the unhealthiness of whatever the cow ate, whatever the chicken ate, right? Even if it was something healthy, if the food is like, because you gotta, like, there's so many aspects of the dieting process of like getting our food to our table
yeah,
that we don't look at,
yeah,
that helps us to see like, okay, wow. And I don't want to spend too much time because we might have
yeah.
to do
That's
just
fine.
a whole other episode, right? I mean, I have the
Yeah.
time, but
I don't have the
I don't.
time,
Okay,
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 buddy.
okay, okay. Fair. But I'll say this, right? You
Right, right,
know,
right.
insert like in certain situations, right? Like
Mm,
there are situations where there was someone in Antarctica and they were trying to be plant-based in Antarctica, and Spirit of Prophecy was kind of like, "What are you doing? You're in Antarctica. Eat the food you got to eat," right? But when we have the options, however, I'm gonna say this: when we have the options to do the best thing, what do we choose? Do we choose the okay option, or do we choose the best option? Now, I'll say this, right? As a former meat lover, like meat tastes good, but other foods taste good as well. And you know this to be true.
William, meat, it doesn't just taste good, it's delicious. Just to add that there, but continue.
So what? There's other foods that's delicious too.
Yeah, I think delicious is meat is definitely in that category. I'm sorry, like we're not gonna downplay
Okay,
meat. I
fine.
respect
Listen.
I respect what you've done. I want to get to that level at some point, but we're not gonna pretend that meat is not delicious, bro. We're not
No,
gonna pretend.
we don't
Like,
have
just
to
keep it
pretend.
real.
We don't have to pretend. Meat is delicious. Meat
It
is very
is.
tasty. And especially the texture, right? Which many plant-based eaters have been fighting to recreate for a very long time. But the best option, right, is the plant-based option, and is scientifically shown, is historically shown, um, is prophetically shown. And that's another thing I wanted to get to, but we can go to that because we have a few more questions to get to, right?